Please, baby, just work for me.
Creme Brulee is so good.
Hanna made a face.
And I did throw up my birthday. So.
Hi there, welcome back, or welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to be here at the Reading Queens podcast. I should probably say that. Hi, I'm Valia.
I'm Kay.
I'm Hanna.
And I'm Tess.
And we're back for another episode that is all about you. Well, not really about you, but this is the episode where you asked us questions and we get to answer them. So I'm excited because some of these questions are a little random, but that's okay.
We're kind of random people, so.
Exactly. We're going to handle this very well. But first, how is everybody doing today?
Great. It's very rainy right now, Valia, so you'd be jealous. Meanwhile, I'm not so jealous of myself because I love fall. I really love crunchy leaves. I love how beautiful it is, but I like fall on like a clear day when it's like nice and cold and you can go outside on a walk and like you don't have to wear a hat, but you can wear a scarf because it looks cool. But then when it's rainy, it's all soggy and the leaves aren't crunchy because they too are soggy. And then you have to bundle extra and I don't feel cute. I just feel moist and wet. So I live in the Pacific Northwest, and so when it rains like this, I'm like, this is just my life every day. But I knew that you, Valia, would be very, very jealous and happy to hear that it's raining.
I am happy. It did rain here yesterday, okay?
Oh, nice.
For like all of 7 hours.
Ooh.
And now it's like clear
That's
outside.
actually a long time, though. Is that, I don't know, is that common that it rains for that long?
No, I mean, when we do get rain, it is like a prolonged
okay.
rain. Like it's not a like a little downpour and that's it. Like no, when we get rain, it's like a full day thing and then it's done. Like literally you look outside and it's gloom and doom and then you look outside 10 hours later and it's like sunshine
and it's all over.
Little birds singing and I'm like,
every trace
what?
of it.
Yeah, it's like completely gone. And that's how it is today. This morning it was just like still a little gloomy as the clouds moved over. And then right now, if I look outside, it's just like summer, 90 degrees outside. I'm like, no.
Oh, I
but
like
it's
that.
fine.
That's funny. Well, when Valia asked that question, you may have noticed she and I both laughed. It's because Hanna made a face. How are you doing? And she made this face that was, I don't know how to describe it. But...
I don't know what face I did. I cannot recreate it. I'll go back and watch the recording later, and I'll tell you what that face was. I'm doing mostly good, though.
Mostly good.
I'm fighting a cold, so I can't be 100%, especially in times of COVID, because you can't cough in public.
Oh gosh,
because then everyone
yeah,
will look at
it's
you,
so scary
and
when that
it's
happens.
I swear I just have a cold. But last weekend, okay, so next Monday is my birthday, and I am turning 40, which is,
woohoo,
a round number.
A round number.
And therefore very exciting. Well, I mean, who cares about 39, apparently, but anyway. And I remember, when I turned 30, I was like, I'm going to do something awesome for my 30th birthday. But then I was pregnant, and I am a bad pregnant. So I just, was puking and laying on the floor tired. It was really bad. I was like, maybe I won't throw up birthday cake, And I did throw up.
Oh, no.
So that was my 30s. And so I'm like, this time will be awesome. So my husband and I went away just overnight in a neighboring town to this cute little historic hotel, and we spent a lot of money on
best thing to
wine,
spend money on.
a lot of food.
Yeah.
Yes. And I bought the most adorable tea kettle that I've wanted for 10 years. So I was very excited. So this is my very on-brand birthday present. Well, I would say birthday present to myself. It means my husband's money. So it's from him. But I said, I want this tea kettle, and then dragged him there. And then we stared at all the colors. And then we went back to the hotel. And the next day, I went back and I again stared at all the colors. And then I picked one. It's because it's the Le Creuset ones. And they come in 6 different magical colors. And so now my tea is extra good because it was
in an extra pretty kettle.
In a kettle. In the prettiest kettle. And I got to eat creme brulee, which is, I feel, a very underrated dessert, but maybe my
The only time I've had creme brulee, it was not sweet
love
enough
it.
for me. So I don't know if that's just creme brulee or if it was just the one time.
It's It's like richer than it is sweet generally, but I mean, you got that like layer of caramelized sugar on the top. That should
Yeah,
you know,
that's the good
now that
stuff.
I'm
handle
thinking
any
about
sweet
this, I
thing.
wonder
You
if
go
it's
like
the cream part of it, because I'm not a huge cream person.
Oh.
So maybe it has nothing to do with the sugar.
that could be. You're like, why is this just cream? Thick cream.
It was fine. I still
Terrible.
liked it. It just, I would not have been like, oh, it's my favorite dessert.
I was surprised the first time I had it that I liked it so much because it doesn't look that exciting, but I think it is wonderful.
It's one of my favorite desserts, and I do make a vegan version since I'm always talking about like, oh, well, blah, 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 I'm vegan, so I always have to have special whatever. But I do have my own special, what's that thing called? Flame torch? The flame torchy thing.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah,
the
to like
blowtorch.
crystallize my own sugar. So now, like when I do make it, it's like extra good because I, instead of putting it in the broiler where like the rest of your custard just gets all warm and melty and then it's not that good anymore, I use my flame torch and it's like restaurant quality.
Well, I'm a little jealous of your flame torch. That's pretty awesome. And what do you make it out of? Is it like a cashew
I mean,
thing?
I just found a recipe on Pinterest, and I think it's like, if I remember correctly, it's been a while. Coconut milk, like coconut. I think it's like the full fat coconut milk, not like the kind that you put in your cereal.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
creme brulee, low fat creme brulee.
Yeah,
would
you
be
have to have the
awful.
good fatty stuff, and blending it with cashews, and I can't remember what else. There's like a couple other things, but of course, like some vanilla beans, some sugar. But it turns out really good. Even my daughter likes it.
That sounds good.
It's a highbrow dessert, you know. So
I think cashew cheesecake is delicious, so I could imagine the cashew creme brulee would also be.
You guys always
Yeah.
make me
Delicious.
hungry. I cannot be on episodes with you.
We're not sorry. So while we're talking about this, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to make next week for my.
Ooh.
Cheesecake.
I'm not quite sure.
I know that's my go-to.
Last year I made myself cheesecake. I did cheesecake
that
with
does
huckleberries.
Yum.
But then I made my husband like a Guinness chocolate cake, like the Guinness beer chocolate cake with Bailey's buttercream icing. And I didn't think like the Guinness chocolate cake was fine. It wasn't like the best chocolate cake I'd ever made. It didn't really taste like beer anyway. But the Bailey's buttercream icing, I could have like eaten the entire bowl. With a
That's
spoon.
impressive. That's
I'm like,
impressive for frosting.
Maybe something with that. It's
I
so
feel
good.
like it's easy to get sick of frosting.
Yes.
if
Oh,
have
you
too
have-
much, so.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of good frosting that like makes or breaks cake. There's too much crappy frosting in this world.
So true. It's a travesty.
We're like, yep.
That's just all I have to say. Like frosting out of a can, don't even talk
And
about
on
it.
that note, no.
And on that
Very
note,
serious discussion going on here.
I know. We're just
I do take
Okay.
it seriously.
before.
But now we
yes,
have other
but before
serious
we move
questions.
on, Kay, is there anything that you wanted to share? Because I feel like
As
we all share
always,
something.
my life is just normal. I never know what to say.
Okay, perfect. No. Okay, well, so this is the question and answer episode, right? So I'm just gonna ask the ladies a few questions, and we're just gonna talk about a few things. Yeah, that's the best way I can segue that. So let's do this with a question for all. Okay. So, what is your favorite read of 2021 so far? Hey, would you like to start us off?
Yes, I told them beforehand that I was very excited to answer this question, and they don't even know what book I'm going to say. So, surprised to
I know,
everyone
I'm like
here.
anticipating.
Although,
Yep.
I bet once I say it, they're not going to be surprised. Probably be like, oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. Very serious setup. It was.
Okay, sorry. Does Kay just laugh so hard that she hit her head on her microphone? And I feel like we need to like.
I did,
Fit this
and
over.
I have to wear enormous headphones because I hate the ones that go in your ears. I hate them, so I wear like big headphones. So they're big. Anyway, the book is Lore by Alexandra Bracken.
Yay!
I 100% predicted that.
I'm so shocked.
Nice. Okay, first off, I love Alexandra Bracken's writing so much. She is one of my favorite authors. So when I saw Lore, like when I found out it was coming out, I was like, yes, I must have this book. And so I was super excited about it even before I started reading. And it was totally just everything that I could have wanted. You know what I mean? It was so good.
Mhm.
It's really cool. It's an urban fantasy. It takes place in New York, present day. But it's all about like the Greek gods and goddesses, like Athena and okay, I'm really bad. I'm not going to remember them because I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head. But you know, Athena and Artemis, and I can't think of any, and I can't think of the other
And those
ones
other
because I'm on the
goddesses.
spot. So it's all good. But it was very cool. The main character, Lore, that's her name, was a descendant of one of the lines, and she just kind of has some things in her past to make up for, and it was so well done, and it has friends to lovers, and let me tell you, that is almost impossible to find in young adult fantasy for some reason.
Mhm.
And I just felt like not only did it have friends to lovers, it also had friends to lovers that was executed very well. So I was really excited about that. Such a good read. Okay, anyway.
I do agree. I love that book so much. I actually want to do a reread out of it because I'm in the mood for like Greek
Yeah.
mythology, and it's like I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I read it at the beginning of the year. I'll read it at the end of the year.
That is perfect. Full circle.
great. I know, right? Anyway, Tess, what's your favorite read of 2021?
Oh, this was so hard because I had to think back. I'm like, I've read so many good books this year, and this is the first year I've actually kept track. So normally I just think of like the most recent one. But I read really good books. I really liked Rhythm of War, Nevernight, and Caraval. If I'm looking back, like those were the ones that like stood out that I was probably the most excited about reading and like really got like swept away. But I mean, Brandon Sanderson, he's like an automatic. I feel like that I can't even count that because I wasn't surprised because I read it and I'm like, this is going to be the best book ever because I love all of his books. So I'm like, okay, that one's not allowed to be in this discussion because it's just automatic. But Nevernight was the first book that I read by Jay Kristoff. And I'd been like hesitant to start it just because some people were like, oh, it's really dark. And then I got a lot of spoilers for like certain relationships. And I was like, oh yeah, people seem to really not like this or that. But then I read it and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is fine. This is like totally my jam. There's a lot of witty banter. There's a cat who is a non-human sidekick who talks and is very like clever and funny. And it was
Yeah.
Always my
yeah,
favorite thing.
it was really good. It was kind of like Brandon Sanderson, but if Brandon Sanderson was dark, wrote about swearing and had a little bit of smut in his books. So I'm like, it's just like a different version of him. So I really like
an
that.
edgy Brandon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is Brandon Sanderson if his life would have taken a slightly darker route. And then I really liked Caraval, which I'd had that book like all year, and for some reason it just kept getting pushed off my TBR. But then I saw the cover for Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I was like, I really want to read that, and I've never read her other books, so I feel like I should read Caraval. And then I really liked it. It was one of those books that I wanted to read it, but I think it had been out so long that like a little bit of the hype and excitement had died, and that's why it got pushed off my TBR. So then it was like a really fun surprise. I'm like, oh, this is good. Yeah, why did I take so long to read this? Like, I really like this book. The magic was really cool. So there's my long answer, kind of like 3 books. But there's probably like so many more.
I read Caraval this year too, and I also really liked it. That was actually one of my top books of the year also.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, Hannah.
I'm glad that Tess listed like 3 books because I'm going through my Goodreads trying to like decide. I was like, there are a few, but I will narrow it to 3. I don't ever like really rank books. I just like, they're between 3 and 5 stars, or I don't finish them, and I just like a lot of them. But one of my favorites was Raybearer by, I'm trying to remember who it's by, Jordan Ifuko, I think. And that's one of the ones that I kept seeing, and then, I don't know, sometimes you just like not that into a cover. Yeah. and then I started reading, I'm like, well, this is why everyone's talking about it, because it's so good. It's so interesting. And yeah, so I love that one. That one's kind of it's a fantasy in a more like African mythology based fantasy world. And there's all sorts of like djinn type creatures and bargains, and I don't know. yeah, it's awesome. I can't tell you most of it because there's a lot of like very spoilery things, but it's super cool, and the characters in it are wonderful, and all the dialogue is great, and I need to read the second book because I really loved it. And another one I loved Dance with a Fey Prince by Elise Kova.
Oh, I want to
It
read
was
that.
just like, it's a fantasy romance, but it kind of gave me vibes of like fantasy I read in the 90s. Of that kind of, you know, when kind of like the Celtic fantasy stuff was a bit more of a thing. I'm trying to think of like examples, but there was just like stuff about it that just gave me those feels, and I really loved it. And then I just finished Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, which is YA contemporary, and I just love it so much. I think I have to buy it. I got it at the library. It's about a girl named Lila. She's Cuban descent, and she lives in Miami, and her life falls apart. Like her grandmother, who's her like mentor, dies, and her boyfriend leaves her, and her best friend moves to Africa without telling her, and like all at once, and she's like having a breakdown, so they send her to England to live with like an aunt or something. I don't know, for her own good. And she's like, her dream is to be a baker, and she learned everything from her grandma, so it's all about her like taking over her kitchen and baking Cuban food. And then she falls in love with this boy who's owns a tea house, and there's a lot of food and a lot of tea, and it's in England.
It's like it
and
was
they roam
made
around
for
the English
you.
countryside. I know. I was like, this is the best book ever, and it has a very, very cute slow burn romance, and it's adorable. If you want something like cozy and adorable with lots of food, which is almost always what I want, then I would recommend it. I was thinking about this because I've said before I don't always love YA contemporary, and I think it helps me when they're not in school.
Okay.
Because it's like her summer after graduating.
yeah.
I don't care if they're like young and in that stage of angsty life. I just kind of get tired of high school drama. So I'd rather be in England playing around castles.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't, right?
As in life, it would be preferable to high school, I think. Yeah. And I loved, I read Tessonja's book and Valia's book. Beta read them, and I love them too. I just have to say. I didn't read the finals, so I can't feel like I can put them on my list till I like sit down and read the finals in their wonderful form.
True.
They're pretty awesome.
But soon you can. Anyway,
Soon.
so for me, I was trying to think, and I don't even remember the books that I read at the beginning of the year, which is just kind of sad. I don't know. Like, I feel like I just read a lot of books that I really liked in the moment, and then I just forgot about them afterwards.
This is how I usually am.
Yeah.
This is only my second year actually keeping track on Goodreads, and I went back and I was like, oh
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at right now too. But the recent reads, I think, are the reads that I loved the most out of the year anyway, because even after finishing them, I'm like, oh, I still like want to talk about it, kind of thing. So one of them is Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross. It comes out actually in November, if I remember correctly. And oh my gosh, I love her writing already. She's very lyrical and descriptive when it comes to her writing, which is something I'm not. So it's really great to read one that's like doesn't bog you down, because that's my biggest thing with like very descriptive books. I'm like, oh, I'm bored, like give me more, like whatever. But she has like a way of writing where it's just kind of just keeps you in the story, even if it's like, I don't know, background information or whatever. But it basically is a story where there's a curse on this like world, and during the full moon, the nightmares come to life, and so every town has like a warden that battles the nightmares, like physically battles the nightmares because they come to life physically into the town. And it's about a girl who that's what she wants to do. She wants to take over for her father and be a warden. And then some stuff happens, and they get kicked out of their town. And so it's so good. I don't want to say anything because I don't know what is spoiler and what is not. But there's like a slow burn romance, and it's a very interesting like magic system, and it's just really good. And
See, you told me I should read this one, but it's not scary, is it? Because
no,
it's sounding a little
no.
nightmare-y.
Rebecca does not like
All right.
the right scary, so
Okay. All right.
No,
Just clarifying. It has the prettiest cover of like any book this year.
I do
probably.
love that cover so much.
It's
Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
really great. So everybody should read it. But anyway, and the other one that really stuck with me recently, which wasn't like the greatest thing ever, but I just love it so hard, is The Inheritance Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes.
Ugh, I have to read that too.
Yeah, you do. And it's funny because there's certain things about it that I don't like in other books, but in this book, I'm just like, oh my gosh, yes, give me more. so, so I don't know what it is about this book. It's very like bingy, and it was just perfect when I read it. So I'm ready to like read book 2. It's waiting for me on my shelf. So yeah, those are the books I'm gonna
Nice.
talk
Ooh.
about. And I'm ready to, yeah. Anyway, okay.
I feel like it's a good example of like, I don't know. I try not to say I don't like certain tropes because like there's things I often dislike, but if it's written well and
Yeah.
by an author like spinning it kind of
Mhm.
however, then usually I'll be like, okay, I do love
Yeah,
it.
it has to work. Anyway, okay, so
Mhm.
really quick, we're gonna do these questions, not like fire round or anything like that. We'll do a few of those at the very end, but I'm gonna ask each of the ladies a specific question. They're gonna answer, and then we're just gonna have like a tiny discussion about it, and then move on to the next one, so that we can cover, like
More questions in less
5,
time.
7. Yeah, exactly, basically. So thank you, Kay. So Kay, we're gonna start with you. What is your favorite part about self-publishing?
All right, I had to think about this one, and I guess the answer is twofold. Uh, it's great to make my own decisions, which is kind of a double-edged sword because the thing about publishing is, sometimes what you think is a good idea is not always a good idea. So, you're like, this is the perfect cover for my audience. And then the audience is like, no. So,
No.
so you kind of have to become an expert on a lot of things. So yeah, double-edged sword. But it is also nice to be able to have the power to make those decisions. You know, I have studied covers a lot since getting into the publishing world, and I feel like I know a lot about what kind of covers my audience wants now. And so if I were with a publisher and they went something completely different that I knew wasn't going to connect, that would be really frustrating, But I get to make those decisions myself, which is good. The other thing that I like about it is it does tend to go faster. Although self-publishing, you write a book, you can just publish it right then, be done with it. It's great. Yeah.
And some people do.
Obviously, all of us use editors, and we go through it a few times and everything. But the thing is, once you have that finished product, even after going through editors and stuff, then you can publish it right away. You don't have to wait and wait and wait forever. And there are some benefits to having it ready ahead of time. Just for marketing purposes, it's good to have a finished copy a little while before release. And some people like to do that, which is great. But some people prefer to just get it out as fast as they can. So I guess that goes back to having the control. We get to make those decisions ourselves.
Yeah.
Whichever way we decide to do it. So I do like that I'm able to, in traditional publishing, it's very common to have one book a year. And I like writing and publishing books more often than that. So it's great that I can do that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I keep telling myself that. I'm like, Hannah, you're just on a traditional publishing schedule.
That's true. I also really love the community with self-publishing. I think that we have a very strong community of authors who genuinely want to help each other. And I'm not saying that traditional publishers don't have that, because obviously some of them do, but kind of being in both worlds in the beginning, I definitely see like my strongest relationships definitely came from the self-publishing world, because people are just, they're more willing to help, and just to be part of like the journey.
It feels more like we're all in it together kind of a thing.
Yeah. Because we're all like figuring out, and we do have to make those decisions. So I love those groups that it's like author questions where we can just be like, what did you do for this thing? Like, so you can make a good decision. And I feel like you can just really get answers instead of just being like crickets, like
True.
Everybody's in their own, trying to get, anyway, I just love that about it too.
I love that I get to draw pictures for my books, because if I was traditionally published, I would have a lot harder job convincing them that I should illustrate young adult novels. As it is, I'm like, I'm gonna illustrate them because I feel like it, and I can. So I do, and draw the covers. I think Tess likes that too. But
I know
like,
Tess
yeah, I
likes
get to draw
that.
my own covers.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're awesome. Thank you.
There's no way if I was talking to a reader about this recently too. There's like no way. I mean, I can't say no way, but it's very highly unlikely that if my books that I illustrate the covers for had gone through the traditional means, that I would also illustrate them, because they have other people to do it that work. Like I'm not a professional illustrator. At least Hanna is a professional illustrator. I'm not. I'm like, hey, I do art, and I think I can do these covers pretty good.
They are.
Your covers are good though. You could do your covers like that for other people.
Yeah.
But I won't.
She's
Just
like,
saying,
no,
I'm not
you're
going
happy
to.
writing
It's not an
books.
open call.
I've had to turn
Insane.
some
You're not
people down
limited.
lately. I'm like, no, yes, I illustrate my own covers. No, I don't do them for other people.
Good to have that line.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of talk about that. So our next question is for Hanna, and it's how do you balance writing and other parts of your life? And you talk about being an illustrator. So how does that work for
Yes.
you?
I mean, like, I feel like there's 3 different directions, right? Like, there's my writing and my illustration and then my family life. Because I have 3 kids, and my youngest is still at home. She's 4. And my husband, obviously, but he takes less, like, watching. It's just, like, we have to obviously spend time with him.
Sometimes.
And it's, like, getting worse. It's a good thing he doesn't. I don't very much, honey. But I just I've always... Part of why I wanted to be a freelancer and then be an author is that I wanted to have flexible hours so that I could be there for my family as much as possible. And because of that, I don't work full time. I know some people do, and it is awesome. I never wanted to have that competition for my time with my kids. That's not to say I never ever work when they're around. I am right now. She's watching Paw Patrol in the other room. But my number one focus is always my family, and just having that as a priority for me works because I think that there's a lot of push and pull with it. And if you just accept sometimes, just like be a little chill, especially when your kids are little, and be like, you know what, maybe I'm not full time. That's okay. Like, whatever. Lots of people have part-time jobs. This is my part-time job. I actually don't know how many hours it takes. I prefer not to think about it. And then my illustration comes second because it is for clients. And I have clients, and my clients have a deadline, and they rely on me. And if I don't get my work to them in time, sometimes they don't have the swag they need for their launch, or they might not have an illustration or a cover they need for their book to go out on time. So as an author, I know how important that is. So I've this year tried to cut back on not having as much, because last year I had more clients and I was very stressed out. So this year I'm working less, but I still take it very seriously. So it's kind of like I gave my writing more room by having less clients, but the clients I do have still come first, which is kind of lame because I do feel like my stuff gets pushed down a little bit more sometimes, but I have to think about that ahead of time and just have less clients because there's nothing to do about it. But I love them all. I love having the different aspects to my life, and I don't think I would be happy if I was writing, 10 hours a day and putting more books out and not seeing the sun. You have to see the sun, people. Also, right now, I draft while hiking. I dictate. So I get to be outside and get some exercise while I'm writing. And I feel like that helps with my balance, too, because it's illustrations, a lot of inside work. And I worry about my wrists, actually. So I'm like, okay, how can we do all this? I will illustrate while I watch shows with my children. And then I will go for a hike and I will dictate. And,
I think that's a good way to answer like the balance question too. It's just like you just set priorities and then you work on things when you need to, with your client work, obviously that's going to come first after your family and stuff like that. But I think like for all of us, that's how we deal with balancing things, is that we have to set that time apart, for things that are first important for us, obviously, and then work around, setting priorities within like the writing world and stuff. Because obviously like we were working on projects, we have to set ourselves deadlines and all those things, and then work around that. And like I work an outside job, so I have to set my schedule around that. So I think it's just like really about taking the time to prioritize and then just work off of that is like the best way to answer that in general terms.
And if you're not meeting your goals, then I think you have to look at, are the priorities that you say the priorities that you're living out. Like if you say your writing is a priority and you're not ever finding time to write, then maybe it isn't. And you need to look at that again, right?
Yeah.
Like we do
Yeah.
manage.
Okay. Kat, when working on the first book, starting out, how does one make friends with other authors?
So this is a tricky question because when I was writing my first book, I spent a lot of time trying to find my like writer group, and I even formed my own writing group, or like I tried to. I had like a Facebook group, and I was trying to get people who are like really like me, who are like into like woo woo stuff and like crystals, and it was really hard to find. I finally did kind of find a group, but then it was just I was the one managing it, and it just we also weren't writing the same things. I think I was one of the only ones in my group writing fantasy, where a lot of other people were wanting to write their memoirs. And it was just, I guess maybe I just went about it the wrong way. I also wasn't a part of that many books that were a little more narrowed down, because you know when you're starting out, you just don't really know where to find these people. But now, you know, if I was to go back and tell my younger self, younger by just a couple of years, my baby author self, I would say to go a little more niched in and figure out more about like the writing people and figure out what's actually important about the people you surround yourself with. I really thought that the people who are into crystals and like woo woo and manifestation and like talking about your sun sign while we're writing and stuff, like I thought that was really important, and it turns out it really is not. That was not the important part about finding the group of writers who are going to help me thrive as a writer. It was finding people in my genre, finding people who had similar goals, similar publishing timelines, and that I didn't try to do it. That, thanks to Kay, came by accident. I just so happened, I think we've told the story on the podcast about how we all met, but it was an accident. It was like I had to stop trying, and then the like opportunity found me. But I do think I could have gone back. Now that I know what's important about the kind of people I want to surround myself with when it comes to fighting your writer friends, is, you know, just you can put the call out. And I've seen other writers doing that in like groups. Like they'll go to the young adult author Facebook groups and say, does anyone want to form like a small group with me? And then I also will say that sometimes you have to start big and you're going to narrow it down. I mean, even we did that. We had a very big group, a couple of them actually that like merged, got smaller and smaller and smaller until we are now the queens.
Yeah.
There's like 12 of us. So yeah, sometimes even your very first one might be a little discouraging, and you might have to narrow it down to find those people who really, really meld with you, that really lift you up. So yeah, that's my personal experience. It was an accident, but I did try. I just didn't try about it the right way.
I have to add to this story because yes, I am the one who created the group that put us together.
The instigator.
And I can't remember exactly what you said. You said you didn't want to form a group or something. Is that what you were saying? Anyway, I did not want to either. I was so mad that I was like, I really want to have an Instagram group where we all kind of help each other out. And I was like, just waiting for somebody to say, let's create this kind of group so I could be like, yes, I'm in. And nobody did. And finally I was like, oh, fine. I'll just organize it myself. I was so
And
bitter
we're also
about it.
grateful.
Anyway, it obviously worked out very well. So I don't be afraid to create a group yourself is all I will say. Even if you don't want to.
Yeah, sometimes you have to be the one who goes and does, you know, the posting and the organizing, and yeah.
But there's also so many places now too, you know, that's a lot more, I guess, like a thing that people do, right? They go to those Facebook pages that are specifically for authors, and they will put out a call, or even, you know, there's specific pages that are made. You know, you could go on Facebook and you can search author groups and find, like Tess was saying, just make sure you find your niche, like make sure you find the right authors that you want to be friends with, and then work from there. And then, yeah, it's going to take work to like find your people, but even on Instagram, like, you know, making those friendships with authors on Instagram can be a huge help, because they might direct you, even if they're not the people that you're going to be with in a group, like they might direct you to somebody. And I just think like just putting yourself out there and being like friendly and stuff like is a good thing, which is very hard for me. But I've heard that that's how you make friends, so whatever.
I want to point out that, like, Kay brought us together as a group, but it was Valia who made us all start
That is
talking on
true.
Zoom, like, once a week.
Yeah.
And then made us all do a podcast.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
good point.
So I love both your bossy hearts. And, yeah, I found Instagram helpful even before I met you guys. Well, I met some of you on
Before our
Instagram
group,
before.
Yep.
Valia on Instagram
Yep,
before.
yep.
Just by putting out there that you're an author, because that's, like, I met all these ladies after I had already published my first book. But before publishing, I did meet other authors, and there's a lot of people, like, Instagram I found had a lot of, like, there's a lot of people wanting to be indie and a lot of, like, aspiring traditional authors who are, like, querying. And they're not quite the same, but you're still kind of at that same stage of, like, trying to write a book and working through this stuff. And it can be a good place to meet people and find critique partners and that early stuff that can be hard. But you have to talk to other people,
Yeah.
so you have to be, like, a little bit brave. It's hard.
Only a teensy bit.
Only a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit brave.
Okay, so really fast, because we mentioned the podcast, I wanted to ask, what is your favorite part about this podcast? And go. Everybody.
It's
Don't.
just
They're all
it's
looking at
just
me.
fun being able to, like, chat with each other.
Yes.
I mean,
We just like to hang out.
we're just so hilarious, you know?
It's true. It's true.
Do you guys listen back to them other than Valia, who has to because she edits them? Like, I listen to them later. Do you guys listen
I also
to them
listen to them later. I listen to them on Apple Podcasts. I have it on every Wednesday morning on the way to work.
Because it's, like, funny to listen to ourselves, and now it'd be even funnier to listen to ourselves talking about listening to ourselves. But I love it because then I get, like, all the warm feels of hanging out again.
Yeah, I've listened to most of them. I haven't listened to all of them, but I mean, I even like listening to the ones that I'm not on.
Yes,
even
yes,
the ones
you can hear what
I'm not
our
on.
friends are talking about.
Yeah, it's fun to hear like how the other, there's some funny things that I hear on this podcast. I'm just like listening to it and just cracking up. And like, it's even funny when I'm not there. Who would have thought?
It's amazing.
The podcast
Yes.
can go on without me. It's amazing.
Don't get any ideas now, okay? Everybody stay exactly where they are.
Yeah, it is fun going back to listen
Yeah.
to them.
I do love, like, the fact that these ladies let me force them into this project with me. Because I wanted to do it for such a long time, and then when it just came about, like, us just starting to talk about it, I think Joanna was the one that brought it up, and I was like, I've been wanting to do this forever, and they were just like, yeah, this would be fun, I'm like, okay, fine, we're doing it. Like, I'm giving you no choice.
I was waiting forever for someone else
Exactly.
to say,
Yeah, like, hey.
would you like to be on a
Everyone's
podcast?
always just waiting
'Cause I
for
was like, I
someone
don't wanna
else to be
edit
in
it.
charge.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been waiting for years to be on.
But I mean, I love being in charge. It's just like I always just hate asking
We love you in
people
charge.
to be like part of anything I put together, because I'm just like, oh, is that asking for help? No, I think it's just like them participating, but then I have to ask. Like, it's like a whole process, okay?
It's you offering to do all the work.
Yeah.
It's just like
I know
being
her
nerds
forcing us,
and recording it.
quote unquote, us to do stuff is, hey, can we do this? We're like, yes, Valia, you're in charge. Just tell us what to do. We'll always do it. Please, just tell us what to do. We're good.
Yeah. We love it. She's like, I'm going to do all the editing and uploading, and we're like, okay.
They just let me be in control, and I love them for it, okay? That's all there is to it. Okay, so we're going to do really quick questions that are specific to you guys. So you're the only ones answering this, and you have like
Okay.
45 seconds to answer. Just kidding, I'm not going to time you.
All our eyes just got
I know,
bigger.
they
We're,
got
like,
very
counting on
scared.
our
I was
fingers.
like,
Okay, time for
I
4
know.
seconds.
Yeah, there'll be like a countdown. We just wasted
I just
45
hold up a little
seconds.
paddle. Like, well, 15 seconds left. Anyway, okay, so really fast. Kay, if you could wield one element, water, fire, earth, or air, which would you choose and why?
Okay, super fast. So I wrote my series, The Elements of Camdaria, and I specifically wrote it where everybody can manipulate all 4 elements because I didn't want to choose, okay?
Mhm.
So I'll start by saying that.
No.
But also, I will also say, I used to always say air so I could fly, but after writing a whole entire series, water. Okay,
Yes.
it was a very good element to work with. There were so many more things I could do with it. So yes, water. But all four.
I love that. Okay, but now I want to know, Tess, which one would you pick?
Water, just because if I have to think about it any longer, I'm gonna take forever. So I'll just say water too.
Okay, Hannah.
Also water because I want to be a mermaid.
Good answer.
Are we all choosing water? We're just okay. Okay.
I do want to fly, but I feel like that's riskier. I don't know.
You have
I need like a
magical
whole different
powers.
change in like worldview.
Anyway, I mean, fire would probably be what people would think I would choose, just because
That does seem like a Valia
it's my
answer.
personality.
Yes.
You have a lot of book covers
I know,
with
but I
fiery
love
girls
water.
on them.
I don't know what it is. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Let's be mermaids
Moving on.
together.
Okay, Hannah. Hannah.
Yes.
Did you start writing
Yes.
books or illustrating books or covers first? And which one you prefer? It's like picking your favorite
Ooh.
child and
Yeah.
go.
It is like picking my favorite child. Okay, I started illustrating first, although like when I was a kid, I wrote stuff and I drew stuff, right? And then I've always drawn. I always, like my entire life, I cannot go more than a day or two without drawing or I turn into a terrible human. And because of that, I would always pick art over writing, even though it would be like cutting off my arm at this point not to tell stories anymore. I love to tell stories. I love my art to be part of my stories, but I feel like my mental health plummets if I go more than a day without drawing, so I have to draw. I must draw.
That's the opposite of
I'm
me.
not like one of those people who draws like as a hobby for
Yeah.
fun. It is like very important for me.
That's how I am with writing, though. Because, like, if I don't write,
Yes,
I have, like,
yes, I can
nightmares.
tell that about you.
But I can not draw
Yes.
for long periods of time. Anyway, not that that was my question, but I decided to answer anyway.
And yeah, and it's proved by the fact that I have gone long periods of time without writing, like all summer, and have not gone long periods of time without drawing ever.
That makes
So
sense.
it must be.
Okay, Tess, are you ready for this super important question?
Yeah. So ready.
What is your favorite vegan dish?
Oh, well, I already talked to you guys about creme brulee. So let's talk savory. My favorite vegan dishes, there are two. The one that my husband makes is eggplant Szechuan, and it's so delicious, and I love it, and I want to eat it at least once a week. For the dish that I make, it is a vegan spinach artichoke dip, and it's baked, and it's hot, and it's bubbly, and you serve it with sourdough bread and some chips, and it's so good. And I also want to eat that once a week.
I want some. I want
I
both those things.
know. So I'm coming over for dinner for some rain and some food.
I heard there's artichoke.
Apparently. Okay.
I will bring the bacon.
So I had a question that was for me that I have no idea how to answer. But the question was, what's one piece of Russian folklore I wish that everyone knew? And I honestly just don't even know where to start because there's just so much of Russian folklore. But the one thing I'm going to talk about, because Hannah, being her amazing self, she just drew the map for my next release, the Scarlet Rose.
And drawing tiny Russian castles is even more fun than drawing normal tiny
They
castles.
it's so adorable. If
say.
you guys want to see it, it's on my
They're so
Instagram.
cute.
It's on Hannah's Instagram. Go check it out. But in one little corner, there's a little creature. He's not really little because you can see him. But it's
Oh, and he's so cute.
But I always, Hannah asked me to describe him to her, and I said it was a Santa Claus, but a tree Santa Claus.
that eats people,
people.
she said.
Oh.
It's like Santa, but eats
Yeah.
people. And I was
What?
like, please tell me more.
But it's a creature that actually unconsciously shows up in all of my Russian fairy tale retellings for some reason. I did not realize that was a thing, but when she asked me, his name is Leishi, and he is basically a creature that is like a wooden creature that lives in the woods, obviously, duh. And he mimics the noise, the voices of loved ones, and kind of pulls people towards them, and then feasts on them. Woo!
Wow, that is
So-
rude.
So that is a thing. But then, okay, really fast. I'm gonna have to mention this one really fast because I just thought of that.
And I made it with the little
Yeah,
teeth.
she drew him, so you can see him in a little corner of my map. But the other one is I wrote a creature into my other trilogy, but you might see them again. But it is called Bayun, and it is a giant, like elephant-sized cat, and he is actually the meanest thing, and he also eats people. But in my story, he's a little bit different because whoever holds his heart is the person that's the kind of cat he is, and a character obviously is a good character, maybe possibly, I don't know. But this cat is like the sweetest with her, and it's adorable. And he's turquoise in my books, and giant, and fluffy and protective, and I love him. So those are 2 Russian folklore for you to think about. Okay, moving on. So that was a lot longer than 45 seconds, if you guys didn't know. But anyway, really fast. Speaking of cats, what animal would be the cutest if scaled down to the size of a cat? Tess, go.
Oh man, I don't know. So I'm just gonna go really boring and just say a straight up wolf, but just as small as a cat, which I guess is basically a fox.
I have to say dragon, which I feel like is an obvious answer, but it's obvious because it's awesome. So cat-sized dragon, maybe like a kitten-sized dragon.
I am writing.
Oh,
I'm writing a cat-sized dragon in the book.
Oh,
my
I love
gosh.
it. Okay, so Hanna.
Obviously, I agree. I was just trying to think if I'd rather have an elephant-sized cat or a cat-sized elephant. But I don't know if elephant is my answer. I'm gonna be also. I don't know if it's boring or not. I want like a snow leopard, but in like house cat size. So like with the big like fluffy tail and the cute ears, and it would be my pet, and it would attack other people who.
So like a guard dog, but a snow leopard.
It's very feisty.
Tiny snow leopard.
But little. Yes, he's little, and he had the fluff, and he would sleep on my bed. And don't tell Finnegan, I love you, Finnegan, my cat. I'm not replacing him.
That's funny.
This is getting
I know,
awkward.
seriously. Anyway, I don't know. I didn't really think of this, but now that
you
said
asked us, you don't
I
even have your
know, but I
answer.
don't think about them before I answer. But I think I would go with a lion, like a full-grown lion, but just a tiny.
I know, it's just something about a big cat, but a
Both of you guys are
right?
choosing cats that are. Okay, even though
You're
my
like
answer
a
was
cat,
obvious,
okay?
it's officially the best answer. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Those are
okay.
cool.
No, I would. I mean, if someone offered me, do you want a small snow leopard or do you want a small dragon? I would probably pick the dragon. I do have to admit that. But you already said it, and I would like a small snow leopard. So
Can we just have all the animals? It's fine. Okay. No. Last question. We have 2 seconds to do this. If someone narrated your life, who would you want it to be the narrator? Hanna.
myself.
That's what I said.
I don't
know,
have an answer.
but she is
for this.
correct.
I don't listen to. Like, I have like audio processing issues.
I don't listen to
okay?
things either.
I don't know.
Oh,
Someone
yeah.
cool. All right, you guys think of someone cool.
I
that's
don't
who.
have audio processing issues. I just can't think of someone with a
Oh,
good
Jensen
voice.
Ackles.
Oh, nice.
That is my answer.
So, you know.
Wait, who?
Jensen Ackles. Which you haven't seen Supernatural, so you
Yeah,
can't
so I
even
don't know.
think about it. No.
I can't pretend I'm cool. I'm just like, oh, okay.
I
cool,
would
yeah.
like to point out this is like the first time ever I think Valia said a celebrity and I didn't have to go look him up. I actually know who Jensen Ackles is. So
Oh,
good
wow.
for me, guys.
Yes. Good job. There's actually a few celebrities. I'm big on voices, and there's a few celebrities, and I'm like, yes, just whisper in my ear for the next 5 hours. I am good.
I'm going to come
go.
up with a really good answer later.
Perfect.
Right now, I do not have one.
Okay, fine, whatever. I guess we're done. No. Just kidding.
We're just
Or
gonna
you know
end
what? We didn't have
there.
What was Tess's answer?
No. Tess, did you have
Did
one?
Tess?
I mean, I would probably have someone really cool if I took like 10 years to think about it. So I'm just going to go with
Yeah.
the girl who narrates my audiobooks, which is
Aw.
Caitlin Davies, because I think she's amazing.
Aw.
Nice. That's a good answer. I suppose. Whatever. Okay, no.
It's better than my
Yeah,
answer.
there
I
you
just
go.
didn't.
No, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up here, but this was really fun. So we're definitely going to do these episodes again, like these type of episodes again. So if you guys have questions for us, make sure you ask, and we'll keep like a running tab of them and then hit them next time.
And questions for the other queens,
Yeah,
too.
for
Questions for everybody and all around and about all the things.
Yeah, and also like the next time we do a Q&A question, these queens might not be the ones that are here to answer them. So like literally for anybody, you can ask questions from the queens, and also just general writing questions and reading questions and podcast questions, and how many times can I say questions? Anyway, this is great. I loved it.
On that
Yeah,
note.
we're done. No, but definitely make sure to follow us on Instagram at Reading Queens Pod. And then before you go, please give us a follow and leave us a review or a star rating on whatever platform you listen to. It really helps. And then tell your friends, because we're here and we're having fun and we want you guys to join us. So yeah, that's it. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.